Hey, Mixed. Yeah, Mixed. It's a cousin Marvin. Marvin Reviews? You know that new sound you were looking for? Well, listen to this. Mixed reviews.
Second episode of The Last of Us just came out, and
I'm in love with it, personally.
it's such a great show.
I cried when the game came out 10 years ago and I played it. I cried at the first episode of the TV show, and I cried at the second episode. I'm expecting to cry again. I haven't cried much in my life.
The Last of Us just always gets you.
In terms of like times I've cried in my life, The Last of Us is responsible for probably 60% of the times I've cried in my entire life.
While we're talking, Asha, what are you doing with your headphones?
I'm trying to do one ear on and one ear off so I can...
Can you hear us in your ears?
When I have the headphones on, it sounds like I'm underwater.
Oh, wait, so you can hear...
No, I can't hear you guys.
Oh,
Are you underwater?
I am under the water. I can make that joke because I'm Indian, guys.
I didn't even know that was what
I
that
didn't
was.
catch
Do you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? Do you know the video?
No, I don't know.
What? I feel like now I have to bring this up. Give me a second. Sorry, brief intermission.
While Asha's looking that up, I'll say my favorite part about Asha watching this show with us is Asha's random comments. I think my favorite from yesterday is when there was like the frogs and the little ducks and stuff. And Asha asked us if the ducks were zombie ducks. And I think it's a valid question. It's a very valid question, but that is nowhere near. Oh, Asha's showing us the video now.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water.
Oh.
Please help me. You're too much raining.
What? I've never
my
seen
God.
that
You've never
before.
seen that? Well, okay.
Anyways.
Well, I think we've kept our guests.
You're waiting long enough through this.
They've
crap.
been in this call, like, ready to go for the last hour, probably.
So, first off, we have another guest this episode, and we're watching Back to the Future.
Yeah. I feel like this guest needs no introduction. I met this individual when I came to college. We spent many an hours talking about movies and TV shows and video games together.
Is it Jordan?
He is my recent travel buddy.
Oh!
It is Jordan, the Vairo show,
Yeah!
Vairo.
Hey, hi, hello. What's poppin'?
There he is, that handsome man.
I'm so glad you're here.
Glad to be here. I'm I couldn't get the recording like on my computer to work because it was like pitching me down for some reason. So I'm speaking to you on my $1,000 Ari mic, but I am recording on my phone. So
I love that.
That's all right, man.
but look, it looks like it's the podcast mic. Look at that. Look, you're like Joe Rogan over here.
So when I asked you to pick a movie, we had talked months and months ago that you were gonna pick what was the Happy Time Murders?
Yeah, because I was like really on a kick with that, where I was like just so like I just remembered Happy Time Murders, and I was like, that movie sucked, and it shouldn't have, and I made like a whole thing about it, and then I was like, I don't know if I can talk about that for like an hour though, you know?
But then I asked you to pick an episode for today, and you almost instantly was like 100% Back to the Future.
Wow. This is definitely a great movie and a great pick. I don't know why, but I don't see you picking this. Great pick.
Yeah, well,
Great
thanks.
pick.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this is like my favorite movie. This is more than just like my favorite movie. Honestly, this is like the movie that like made me love cinema. You know, it was like I watched it with my dad when I was 8, and I was like, you know, people make these, right? Like that's their job. I'm like, are you what? So I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do.
That's what I want to do.
Jordan's a really good writer, and a lot of the time whenever we talk about movies, you always dive into like the whole writing aspect of it. I definitely want to hear like your opinions and like.
Well, sorry. One thing we totally forgot. We need to go watch the movie one more time before we get into this.
Oh, right. Silly
So
us.
Let's go watch, and then
We done goofed.
then we'll get through the conversation.
All right, let's do it.
Sorry.
My bad.
It was good. Real good.
I love that movie.
My favorite part is when Leah Thompson comes on screen as an old lady, and I said to Asha, "This was my childhood crush," and Asha goes, "Ew, the mom," and I say,
Oh my god.
"Just wait, you'll see."
And then Asha realizing then later that they were the younger ones took a minute, and that was really funny too.
Well, it's really like a testament to like the the prosthetics, but also like the caliber of performer that Crispin Glover and and Leah Thompson are, to just like step into both of those roles seamlessly.
It's so good.
It's kind of hilarious though, because it's very obvious prosthetics, right?
Yeah,
Like,
at the beginning, I was like, wow, I really want to peel off that guy's neck wrinkles. Like, but I also didn't know it for sure. I was like, is he oldified or no? And they were like, no. They said it's real wrinkles. They were fooling me because I didn't know the premise, but.
No, I guess I fully thought.
They definitely had some kind of like prosthetic wrinkle on his face.
I didn't realize that.
It's kind of like very obvious in how the skin stretches, even with Doc Brown too, like when he's in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely heavier on Leah Thompson compared to like the other two.
Well, there was I don't know what it was for, but in the behind the scenes of a thing, they were talking, and they were saying for some reason she had like some like blood work done or something during the production, and she had all her makeup on, and the lady like is leaving, is like, wow, like she's really fit for her age. And little does she know is like this teenage actor that is dressed up in this old lady makeup.
Oh my god, I've never heard that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, we love to go watch BTS stuff after we watch movies. So Jax was diving right into all of the nitty-gritty stuff.
Oh,
but how did you feel about Back to the Future? Like, what about it makes it so great to you?
Honestly, it comes from like a time when the blockbuster was first really like taking off, like around the time of like, you know, Jaws and stuff. This was back when the blockbusters were like smart. Like they were fun, but they were also like, they didn't have the luxury of being attached to anything.
Right.
They just had to be good to be memorable, and you know, it's just a fun movie,
right,
through and through. It's a masterclass of like storytelling and like I don't know, everything about it, man. Like the set design and of course the performers.
Right.
So I was watching some of the behind the scenes stuff, and Robert Zemeckis was talking about different like cast, because there was a lot of, you know, recasting and shuffling people around with this. And he was talking about like how the comedy, it doesn't come from the punchline, it comes from the reaction. And you really see that in like everyone's performance.
Oh, definitely.
It's just so like those crane shots where you like see Marty and you don't even really see his face for some of them, but like just like physically, everyone's on.
Yeah.
Every single person is on.
Definitely. We caught that a lot too with like Doc Brown and Marty. Like every time Biff kind of towers over Marty, his eyes just go like super big and bulgy, and all you see is just his eyes over the shoulder of Biff, right? Yeah. It's the reaction in Marty's eyes that like really sells it. And it's throughout the entire movie. Like,
I think my favorite moment of just non-verbal communication, just with looks and just with the actions, is when Lorraine comes to Doc's house, she follows Marty back, and it's like, will you go to the dance with me? Well, from the moment she knocks on the door to the moment we cut out of the scene, it's this dialogue between Doc and Marty of like, wait, that's your mom? Whoa, that's your mom. Wait, she's asking you to, she likes it. It's just this back and forth of looks between the two of them. And I couldn't focus on the dialogue because I was laughing at the two of them.
Yeah, like Doc is so shocked, and he walks around the DeLorean, and he doesn't break eye contact with Marty once. He's just staring at him with wide eyes like, oh my god, this guy's mom is hot, and she wants to take him to the date, and he's just like, don't do it, man.
Yeah, that whole thing where when Lorraine's stepping up to him, he's like, oh, you don't want to take like George, and he's like, oh, George is fine, but I like keeps like stepping up to, and then like you just see Doc like lean on the DeLorean, like, God. And then Marty looks back at him, and he looks back at him like
yeah.
What a predicament.
Yeah.
Robert Zemeckis and
Bob Gale.
Yeah. So they graduated film school together with like one super crazy student film that got like a B+ or something. Like the professor didn't like it, but then like they go write a script, take it to a guy. He's like, I know a guy. It's Steven Spielberg. So Steven Spielberg makes that movie. It flopped. And then they make another movie. It flops. I think he has 4 flops before finally they have this half-cooked idea for Back to the Future. They take it to a guy at Columbia. He said, no, we're not going to do it. They take it to Steven Spielberg, who's just set up everything at Universal. He's like, yes. And they say, okay, but they own the script at Columbia. But it just happens the guy that said no at Columbia said no because he was going to Universal. So he had the rights still. all these things that went wrong, including the recasting, all the reshoot, like they shot 6 weeks with 2 completely different actors and actresses. And then all of that, finally it comes out and it's this wild, this change that happened in this film to make it happen. Like even just the changes in the original concept to what it is now. It's
like
bizarre how perfect this movie came out.
Yeah, it's so good.
I was watching that too, the behind the scenes stuff where they were like almost reluctant to go back to Spielberg.
Yeah.
Because they had 3 flops with Spielberg attached.
Yeah.
If they made a 4th movie and it flopped, then like, you know, they figured like, oh, our career's over, you know? We only get jobs because of our friend Spielberg, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild that they just took this 4th chance on these 2 right out of school directors and writers. It's so bizarre.
Kind of interesting now how almost because of Back to the Future, Zemeckis is now a household name.
And if you don't know his name, you know his work.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were surprised to find out it was Zemeckis who directed Polar Express, right? And then we kind of looked into it and we found out he did so many other things. And then he's like name dropped so heavily in movies like Ready Player One, or I guess books and movies like Ready Player One, that it's a testament to show how culturally significant Back to the Future became.
Yeah.
Even spawning up things such as Rick and Morty, right?
Right, yeah.
Like this movie is so culturally significant across like generations. And I want to know, I know Jordan has like a lot of insight to stuff like that too. So I kind of want to hear what you've dug up for that.
You know, obviously like it was lightning in a bottle, that first movie. I actually like, I had to kind of re-examine my opinion on the sequels, because like I loved the movies. I still love the movies, but when I was a kid, it was like, oh my god, you know, self-lacing shoes and all that, and you know, like that was that was like kind of the main takeaway that I had. But like as an adult, having a better understanding of like storytelling and stuff, I kind of find those the second and the third to kind of like, I don't know, almost like damage the first rather than like build and like improve on it. Because basically, okay, Back to the Future is a hit.
Yeah.
They have a hit on their hands. They have a franchise. And like, okay, so
the first movie sets up the next movie.
It does. That's true. Like they were like, that ending, I almost like think it works just as well if they never got a sequel.
Oh, 100%.
I agree.
Because it's like, oh, the adventure continues. It's these guys are going to be friends throughout time. They're gonna be doing all sorts of adventures. Sorry, to step back a bit. So Marty McFly is like kind of an enigma in terms of protagonists, because he's kind of flawless. He doesn't really learn anything by the end.
Right.
As opposed to like, you know, other characters, it's like, oh, I'm set on this mission. I'm a chosen one, whatever. He kind of just like is this noble hero charging through thresholds, picking fights. And he's never really like punished for that or like challenged as a direct result of that. And then you have 2 and 3 that they see the franchise potential of Back to the Future and they're like, oh, okay, he needs an arc. So they kind of build one retroactively. Nobody Calls Me Chicken, Needles, and the whole idea that like his sort of reckless abandon is like this bad thing that he has to overcome.
Yeah.
Were never elements of the first movie.
It's almost like that hero's journey thing. You start off weak and then the character is given a task that he has to complete, but he's at that point in time not able to complete it. So he has to grow and develop to then get over that task and complete it. And then by the end of it, he's evolved as a person, right? Like that's number one hero's journey kind of like story arc, right? It's almost like that story arc in the first movie is given to George McFly.
Yeah.
Because Marty comes out of nowhere and has to give him, you know, this information that he has to take Lorraine to this dance and they have to kiss. That's the conflict, is if he doesn't get George to where he needs to be, he dies and he like phases from existence. So he kind of takes his protagonist story arc and puts it on his own father. And that's where the conflict comes from. And that's where the concern comes from. Because up until that point, you like Marty McFly because he's this upbeat, cheery guy. He stands up for people who need it. But he will die unless this wimpy little doesn't get the cojones to talk to this girl, right?
And to think too, like with Marty, he didn't choose to go back in time.
No.
He's like, oh, I gotta escape these guys. Goes in the time machine, is all of a sudden, okay, well, now we need to get back. And while trying to figure out how to get back, realizes, oh crap, I've interfered with my parents' life. Like there's 2 whole problems that he has to solve. It's not just like, oh, I'm stuck in time, let me get back, and the whole movie's about that. No, it's about him fixing his parents' relationship in the middle of this whole time travel thing.
And they become linked too, because like he can't leave having now like altered the timeline because he won't exist. So like, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It sets up these two goals kind of separately, and then they sort of intersect in a neat way.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Okay, where were we?
How do you feel about the whole time paradox dilemma that exists in all kind of time travel movies? How do you feel like this movie handles it? Because he fixes his parents' relationship, but he goes back in time, but everything's still different with them, right? Like, his mom and dad aren't kind of lame the way they were before, and his brother and sister are kind of, neat and proper and everything, but it's fine. So how do you feel about that whole thing?
I don't know. Internally, it works. You don't have to think about it a ton to kind of like, oh, okay, if he goes back, then it's like, things will be fine. I think if you were to make it too complex, then I don't know if it would have been a hit. But on a similar thought, I think this movie is like, it's interesting because like in terms of writing, you take a screenwriting course, whatever, show don't tell is like the main thing. And Back to the Future is interesting in that it is both a masterclass of like storytelling through showing you things while also giving you an ungodly amount of exposition. There are so many scenes where they're just explaining how time travel works, how the plan's going to work. This is where you're going. This is where you are. This is where you've been.
But also he's explaining it to this video camera too. Like they found a little interesting way to do it is where he's trying to document this discovery he's made too.
Right? That's right. Yeah. So he's almost like he's coaching himself through it. Yeah.
It's a cool way to get out of that whole exposition trap is by making your character documenting it for a reason, not just to further the story.
I'm sorry that we totally skybotched what you're talking about there, but
no, it's all good.
The serious part of this movie that I love and I am astounded by is how easily they set every single aspect of this movie up in the first act. But like basically they set up the story, they set up the jokes, they set up the characters, they set up the antagonists, they set up all of it in a fun way of seeing this world that Marty lives in. You see interactions with all these people with the world, and it's fun. And I feel like in school and in screenwriting classes, we're taught to kind of do this as quick as possible. Like you want to get to that inciting incident as quick. Our inciting incident of this movie, him going back, is like the change from Act 1 to Act 2. That's like halfway through the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They really take their time to set everything up well. They set up all these jokes. Like all the little details and character stuff all comes in jokes. Like it's the little joke of Biff knocking on George's head, being like, hey, then you go back and you see that.
Oh yeah, that's like such a strong element of this is the reincorporation of even like the smallest little elements, like, Uncle Joey, he didn't make bail, and then you go back in time and you have a little joke where it's him as a baby and he's just like in a crib. Just the little things that all keep piling up. It just makes this movie so satisfying.
Mm-hmm. As a second time viewer, like all those things, that's when good setup really pays off, is when you're watching a second time, you catch all the little things. And I am curious for someone like Asha, who hasn't necessarily seen the movie before, when you see all those things being set up, it's telling you the story, but did you catch on all those things watching it? Did you kind of think back and be like, oh, that's referring to this? Like,
yeah. It was like a puzzle. I liked it. It was like an interactive game. Like I felt like I was in a video game, and then you choose your action, whatever. They'd be like, "Wow, I can't find that energy anywhere from plutonium. I guess we would need something as strong as lightning." In my head, I was like, "Oh, the lightning strikes the clock," and then they go, "Oh, the lightning strikes the clock." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I did it!" I thought it was fun.
That's something I definitely enjoyed the most out of this. Is it's really in your face, obviously. Like you're told about everything that is very relevant to the story moving forward. It's all information that's very like bright and in your face, like, hey, the lightning strike the clock. We need you to donate so we can get it fixed. It's been stuck at this specific time ever since 1955. And you're like, okay.
It's just a way to get us out of the scene that first time, too.
Exactly. And it's all relevant information to later. And it's perfect because when you go back in time, they don't have to reestablish things. They can just maintain everything they've set up in the first act and just lean into it. Everything's the same. Like the whole chase sequence when he's being chased by Biff in 1955 is almost the same route he takes to get to school in 1985. You know, it's almost the same color truck, if I remember correctly. He waves to the ladies dancing in 1985, and then when he's getting chased, he waves to the ladies in the cafe. You know, it's that added level of familiarity that makes us enjoy it more. I think
it works like nostalgia.
Exactly, and it's so well done and masterclass. I'd say, in Jordan's words, I love it. It's just so good.
The way those shots so consistently throughout this entire movie sync up and like familiarize you with like all the locales, like, you know, Hill Valley Square, Marty's Street, just how one-to-one it is like so impressive.
And the first instance we get of it too is when Doc is telling Marty at the beginning, like right when he's about to time travel, it's like, I remember when this used to be all farmland, and Buddy had this crazy idea to breed pine trees, and then you go back in time and he's there on the farm, he runs over the one pine tree that then changes the timeline from Twin Pine Malls to Lone Pine Mall.
It's the funniest joke.
It sets up a joke at the very beginning that pays off still at the end, and there's not one that's missed.
Okay, we are halfway through, and we don't have any sponsors yet.
None at all?
Nope, not one. But we can still talk and take a second and promo.
Encourage people.
Yeah. Here's a short encouragement to consider becoming a Patreon member. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, listeners. It's Jackson's mom. I'm here to tell you about our Patreon. If you subscribe to our Patreon starting at $3 a month, you can unlock early access to videos and podcast episodes, be a part of live episodes, receive free monthly gifts, and hear full versions of our podcast with bits like this.
This movie could start a million ways. It could start with just seeing Doc Ock. Hey, look, it's this DeLorean I've made.
Doc Ock?
Look at like Doc Ock. Oh my gosh, I said Doc Ock.
Spider-Man?
Wait, what is it? Doc Brown? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Have I said that okay. Anyways.
Think, McFly, think! We can rule this city, McFly!
That's going to be our ad right there for the Patreon.
Oh, sweet. There we go.
What was I even saying?
So, subscribe to our Patreon today. The link is in the show notes. And now, back to the show.
As you can imagine, we get off on some pretty strange tangents. If you want to hear all of that, become a Patreon member, get the full podcast ad-free, and lots of cool bonuses. Okay, let's jump back into the movie.
At the end, when the band member, the guitarist from the band, slices his hand open, thus leading Marty to have to take over on stage, and then he plays Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good on stage. The band is Marvin Berry and the Light Somethings. It's like, okay, Marty's playing a very famous song called Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry. Mm-hmm. He's playing it. He's having a good time. And then it cuts to a quick jump cut of that guy, Marvin. He's like, it's me, Chuck, it's me, your cousin, Marvin Berry. We found the sound you were looking for.
You know that new sound you were looking for? Well, listen to this.
I never caught that before.
It's like, oh my God, he just called Chuck Berry to tell Chuck Berry about Chuck Berry's future song. Like, obviously never happened in real life. That's not how it happened.
How do you know that, Tom?
Yeah, Tom.
Exactly.
This is a documentary. What do you mean?
This is all real life.
Wait. It is actually wait, what do you mean? What do you mean this didn't happen?
Are you telling me Back to the Future is a found footage film?
Yeah.
Are you telling me movies are fake? What? What? No. God.
One of the things I feel I was kind of taught while I was learning to kind of direct and write was don't leave stuff up to your audience to figure out. Like, really, don't let your audience work hard trying to think. And I feel it's wrong. That's such a wrong piece of advice because if you see this movie, you have to give it to them, but you don't have to then re-explain it and really drill in. Hey, this was the thing that we showed you. Like, it's just, if you set it up well,
Yeah, exactly. It's like that aha moment when you realize it, and it's like, I get that in the sense of like, don't make it impossible for the audience to figure out, but like, okay, like take that intro, take that opening shot of all the clocks, masterclass storytelling, because you basically it achieves so many things. Like by the end of it, Doc before you've even met him, before you've even heard his voice, and then just like the little bits where it's like it hangs on the shot of like, Brown Mansion destroyed. It even has like a Toyota radio commercial in the back, which like comes into play later because then he gets the truck at the end.
Yeah.
Or like the news segment about the stolen plutonium.
And then you see the plutonium too.
Exactly. And then like the obsession with time and like everything is timed exactly right. It really sets you up for the movie.
That's one of the things I wanted to talk about, especially is because something that's really important is just an opening image. Sometimes it can go along with like your opening image and your closing image. It's that first thing you see and the last thing you see. And how it can work with writing and with visuals is stuff like that, where we need a way to open this movie. This movie could start any way, but the fact that it slowly introduces us to the world of Doc Brown, it shows us who Marty is, that he's interested in music and he's interested in what Doc Brown's doing, and they have a repertoire together. Like they really set up so really well just in that first. They set up everything with the plutonium. Like it's so good.
Also too, it really, the fact that Marty walks in there and just goes to town on like super high tech equipment also kind of shows you that they're familiar with each other. Like it at least builds up that they have a small little bit of a relationship before they talk to each other, right?
He knows where the key's hidden and for his door too.
Yeah. It's those little lines and those little like character beats where it's like it establishes the relationship so effortlessly that you don't even question like how they know each other.
Right.
They're already familiar.
Yeah.
And then we never actually get an answer to that, but it's like,
no, we don't need
one. Exactly.
Yeah. It's the same as, how does this DeLorean really work? You don't need to explain it. I was writing a time travel movie. My professors kept going, no, you need to kind of explain how it works. Like you need to kind of have an explanation between the science behind it. I'm like, but do you? Like it's a button you click and you go back in time. Like it's just, there's things you don't need to always explain.
Exactly.
So I hate to do this, but I have to do my job on this podcast.
Uh-oh. We need to mix those reviews.
So I really do want to know what you didn't love so much about it, if there's anything.
Man, you might have to come back to me on this, because I don't think there is a thing that I'm not like 100% on board with.
Well, Asha definitely had something to say.
Yeah, Asha's hand flew up.
Wow, that's a little dramatic. I would say, I just think with the plot, okay, the mom and the dad were very involved with Marty, correct? When they're like kiddos, right?
Yeah.
They know this man's face. They know what Marty looks like. In fact, they like Marty enough to name their third child after Marty. It's a boy. It's a newborn baby.
But
they don't know what this newborn baby looks like. And he grows up, has an identical face to the Marty that changed their life, and identical voice to the Marty that changed their life. Are you telling me they did not admit themselves to a mental hospital after that? There's no chance.
But also, like, they named him Marty before he went back and did all that stuff. But that's the only
But he went back and did all that stuff, and then it reset their whole timeline. They still named him Marty, the third kid. A newborn baby. They had no way of knowing he would be identical to the Marty that they named him after. And they're just like, oh, wow, cool. What a coincidence. He has the same face. They're like identical.
That's a really good point. It's like that line at the end where it's like, Marty, that's a nice name. It's like, yeah, let's wait 3 children to name.
Right? Like he has an older brother.
Yeah, his older brother's not even named Calvin.
Yeah.
Isn't his name like Dave or something?
Yeah, I think his brother's name's
I think it is Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, in a world of McFlys, Biffs, and Martys, who names their kid a Dave.
Right?
You know?
That would have been funny if the brother was now called like Calvin or something.
Yeah.
That would have been good.
Yeah, I can get that they'll name him Marty now because there's a very influential Marty in their life, you know, and they felt like it was just right. If there's anything I can make a criticism about is how if you really think about it, it's confusing. But like you mentioned, you don't need to know everything.
Yeah.
And all this information doesn't matter to the story we just watched.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you could stipulate on the details of this like for hours and hours, but it's the fact that like you almost don't feel the need to. Like the story speaks for itself.
It really is a testament to how well they stuck to what was important. Every motivation had a setup and a payoff. Every little beat was so meticulously, maybe not even intentionally, but everything in that movie had a purpose. Every scene came back in some way or set something up. But they didn't skip a beat and waste time explaining things like they just told the story while really focusing on what was important to it.
Yeah, it's like there's so many moving pieces, but like none of them feel like a weak link, you know? They all come back in like meaningful ways.
It's not like Interstellar where you need to have like this ultra cerebral understanding of time travel and all this stuff. Like it's just a goofy, lighthearted time travel movie. It's a nice little make the mess, clean up the mess kind of story.
I think one of my favorite lines from Tom while we were watching this movie was Tom going, "Man, this is extremely meta." but you're so right too, because it knows what it is and it knows exactly the situation it's presenting you, and it plays into that so well. Plays into the fact that he's going back and is meeting his parents and he's watching his mom do exactly the things that she said she's never done, and you know, he watches his dad peep on his mom through binoculars. Like stuff like it knows what this movie is and it really leans into it, and I love that so much.
Wait a minute. Wait. Sorry. Just a second. The woman in the window, that's supposed to be Lorraine?
I believe so.
What?
That's what I
never knew that. I thought it was just some woman.
No, I thought it was her, because I think when the dad gets out of the car, he like yells to that window.
Yeah.
Huh.
I always thought it was Lorraine, even when I watched it however many years ago. I kind of thought that's what he was doing.
That's interesting.
In the behind the scenes stuff I was watching, they say it was.
See, it's like so many small things, you know? I've seen this movie like however many times.
You know what cracked me up? In the original, there's a line where Doc says like, "I can see for the next 25 years who the World Series winners are."
Yeah.
And then they paid that joke off in the second movie where he goes to the future and then he like asks for the world. Or no, who goes?
I think Biff figures it out and then has built his empire on knowing. Yeah, because doesn't he somehow get the DeLorean? He finds the DeLorean, goes in the future, and then they go in the future.
I do not remember.
I think he's based this whole thing off of the book of World Series wins, and that's his whole empire.
But I feel like that was maybe just a throwaway line in the original, and they found out that they were approved for sequels. They were like, oh, well, let's make it about the joke we made.
Things like that, where even just like bringing that back as like a plot point in the sequel, and like how they'll repeat different scenes, like Lorraine nursing Marty back to health, and like the diner, and like all of these things throughout the movies really make the whole experience of the trilogy feel very connected, symbiotic.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like the same story.
It's super funny you say that, because I thought they go into the future where Biff's empire existed in this movie, because the plots line up like so back to back. I thought it was all one movie and forgot that I had actually seen the second Back to the Future movie.
It's really a testament to how well those movies flow together.
They really wrote the perfect ending scene unintentionally for a sequel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that ending. I love the thought of just, okay, well, let's have all this new adventure.
Yeah, we're off to the next one, and then just...
We're going on an adventure, Morty. Yeah. We're going on an adventure.
Morty!
I'll say, I don't know if either of you have seen this, but one of the things that I had to go back and rewatch after we watched this was there's a Netflix series called The Movies That Made Us, and they did Back to the Future.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
So if you want a good little history lesson on this movie, I really recommend that because it's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
There was originally going to be a chimp as his dog, but no, they they changed it.
I wonder because of the Gordy mishap.
The Gordy mishap.
Uh-oh.
That one TV show where a balloon popped and that chimp went crazy.
Oh.
Well, we've taken up enough of your day, Jordan, but thank you so much for coming on and bringing us this movie.
Yeah. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Do you have anything else you want to say before we let you go?
Anything else? Let me breeze through my notes real quick.
My favorite part about writing notes is I talked about 2 of the things I had in my notes.
That's why I don't take notes. I do these just all off the top of my head.
Yeah, it shows. No.
Oh my God. Oh.
I usually take notes. I didn't really this time, but I did write, I like the dog and I like the dad because he goes, ha, 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 because he has a funny laugh. I can't do it that well, though. Yeah, exactly.
I have one thing here from the behind the scenes like interviews and stuff. Sid Sheinberg was the CEO of Universal, and one of the notes he gave was to change the title, and he wanted it to be called Spaceman from Pluto, you know, as like a reference to the comic that the kid has in the barn. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, this is terrible! Steven Spielberg, fix this, please." He literally sends a note that's like, "Thanks for the laugh," and then he never brings it up again.
Yeah, I love that.
Do you think that would have any significance to how impactful this movie has been?
Oh, we wouldn't be talking about it right now. We absolutely would not.
If it was called Spaceman from Pluto, it would flop.
No, it would be Zemeckis' and Gale's like 4th flop, and then we would never hear from them again.
Also, imagine if it was Eric Stoltz that actually went through as Marty for the whole movie. Do you think it would be any different? Because I think they canned Eric Stoltz because he was playing it too serious. Something like that.
Yeah.
He thought of it as like this tragedy because one of the things they said was they did a table read at the end. He was like, well, it's so sad. Like he comes back and he's stuck in this new world and has to pretend like he's an imposter in this new world that he comes back to.
It goes back to the thing of like Zemeckis talking about the comedies and the reaction. Like that's what they were looking for. They always had their eye on Michael J. Fox for the role, and then they cast Eric Stoltz, and then that didn't work, and then they got him back. They're both great performers, but they're very different performers. Michael J. Fox has more of an eye for the physicality and the comedic sensibilities. He was just like, what a peculiar scenario. My mom's got the hots for me. Like that's he's just playing it silly, you know.
They almost had to do it with the cards they were dealt. You know, and then it just worked out that Michael J. Fox was available again. And now we have...
Well, no, they had to shoot it while he was on Family Ties. So it was like the mornings he would spend on Family Ties and then nighttime he'd spend on set of this show.
And now we have one of the most influential movies of all time.
Of all time, yeah.
And then from that, the birth of one of the most influential TV shows that will now be getting canceled.
Yeah.
What TV show?
Rick and Morty.
Oh, geez, Rick, she cloned my phone. I was Morty, you weren't texting minors, were you? God. Rick,
All right. Like we said, we won't take up much more of your time, man, but we really appreciate you coming on.
I'm so glad you came on.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Honestly, thank you for picking such a good movie for us. Like, this is so good.
I haven't seen this movie for too long, and that was so much better. It was so good to watch.
This is fun, guys. This is awesome. Anytime
we can't get anyone else. I promise.
If we're really struggling to put someone entertaining on this podcast, we'll maybe give you a call.
No, seriously, Jordan, that was amazing. Thank you for picking.
We'll be in touch.
No, thanks again, buddy. It's been a blast. Always love chatting with you.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Jordan, is there anywhere that people can find you if they like your comedy chops? Or
you can follow me on TikTok at TheVairo.
His TikTok is hilarious.
TheVairo? How do you spell that?
That's VEERO. TheVairo. I do jokes.
You do jokes?
Oh my God.
No way.
Is he paying for this ad?
Kind of a goofster. Professional goofster.
We'll discuss this ad rate space.
Oh, man.
And that has been our episode of
Mixed Reviews.
See, he does it. Okay, that's enough.
Wow. Oh my gosh, hit those high notes.
All right. Buddy,
Take it easy, guys. Love you, music. Bye.
All right. Love you, bye.
Bye.
Hey there, I'm Jackson's mom, and this has been Mixed Reviews with Tom McMahon, Jackson Brotherton, and our in-host genius, Asha Joseph. This episode was mixed, mastered, and edited by TheOldManDave. Be sure to follow our podcast on your favorite podcast app and join our Patreon for extended, ad-free, and bonus episodes. The link is in the show notes. This has been a Vanish Entertainment production. Thank you for listening.